This is Troutbitten Tips. Thanks for joining me. I want to show you today how I change leaders and rigs and how I do it fast. I want to change quickly because I want to be versatile. Now there's one really good way to change leaders and rigs, and there's a lot of bad ways to do it. I want to show you something good. So the leader is the most important thing in your rig. It's more important than the fly. It's more important than the fly line. Because a purpose-built leader is perfect for the job at hand. A dry fly leader is way different than a tight line nymphing leader. And we want to be able to change and be versatile out here. Now you might be a leader junkie who has 6 or 7 leaders with you. I carry 2 or 3, and throughout the day I might change 5 or 6 times. I might change 5 or 6 times this morning. I want to be versatile. I want to be efficient. That's a lot of fun. And I want to make things easy. Remember, if it isn't easy, you won't do it. And it's just the way fishermen are. So I really love being versatile on the water. Honestly, it's why I fly fish. With a fly rod, you can always meet the trout on their own terms. Whatever they're eating, we can fish wet flies, dry flies, nymphs, and streamers in so many different ways. And being versatile allows me to catch more fish, and changing quickly allows me to learn the next thing. So let me show you how I attach a leader to the fly line, how I store leaders, and how I like to store tippet sections. So probably the most common way for attaching a leader to the fly line is the loop-to-loop connection. And I know some of you are going to hate me for saying this, but I just don't think it's a good way to do things. It's clunky going through the guides. It has a lot of mass going through those guides. It'll sometimes stick. It's certainly not streamlined, you know. It also takes more time to run the leader through the loop to put it on. And when you're taking it off, you have to run the whole leader again back through the loop to take it off. The way I like to do things is definitely faster, and it allows me too to keep the flies on the leader if I choose to do that. I'll show you that in a minute. Some people call this a handshake loop, and I also find that it's like the loop doesn't want to stop shaking hands. It's hard sometimes to pick it loose, and then you can take your leader off. I'd like to show you something better. So I don't use a loop-to-loop connection, but here's what I do. I keep my leaders stored on old Maxima spools. These are 3-inch spools. The leader peels right off, and I'm going to tie it on with a simple clinch knot, treating the fly line loop as though it were a hook eye coming through. Really, 3 or 4 turns is all you need here. Go on through, pull, and you're tight, you're good. And be careful too. Keep it nice and flush. Cut it nice and flush. Now this is a very streamlined knot. It's certainly strong enough. It goes through the guides a lot easier. The only downside really is you're going to lose maybe an inch every time that you change leaders. So what? When I'm ready to take it off, obviously I'm just going to simply clip it off and reel all this back up on my spool. I use hair ties to hold this on. It's actually a lot better than a rubber band. It's a lot simpler. Comes off easier. The rubber band wants to stick on the spool, and these hair ties just kind of hold things the right way. So when I show people this method, a few questions always come up. First, does it create a slit in the fly line? Well, sure it does, because you want the monofilament to bite through that fly line coating and find the core of the line. That's where the strength is, the braided core of your fly line, and that's what you're tying to. So it does, it creates a tiny slit in there, and that's a good thing. Does it damage the fly line though? No, it really doesn't. I bet I've changed leaders, 300 times on just this fly line alone. So I guess the other question is, does water get into the end of this line? I suppose it does. I can't deny that maybe in the first 1/16 of an inch, you get a tiny bit of water, but it certainly floats. I don't have a problem with that. And you know, fly line loops. You know, loops at the end of the fly line are a pretty new thing if you think about it. 6, 8, maybe 10 years ago at the most. And previously, nobody had any problem, none of us had any problem with the fly line being just sliced off at the end, and we used nail knots. I think we've always had a little bit of water going into the end of the fly line, but it floats. All right, now for storing the leader, I put them on these old Maxima Chameleon spools. These are 3-inch plastic spools, and I hold it on with a hair tie. You can wrap a leader in your hands, but unwrapping them is always the problem, especially with long leaders. This just makes for a much faster transition, and it's just more efficient. This 3-inch diameter is great, whatever fits in your pack, but you don't want to go any smaller than 3 inches here, because you'll get too many coils, and then you just have to stretch them like crazy. This just unrolls right off the spool for me. And another point that I'll make is do this on the water, especially if you have a long leader, because then that leader can just unfold on the water. If you do it on the bank, you end up getting tangled in the brush. So one more thing here. This is how I store tippet sections. Sometimes I don't want to change the whole leader. And I have pre-rigged tippet sections ready to go on these loon rigging foams. Somewhere on my leader I'll have a tippet ring, and then I can pull these 2 streamers off and tie it right to my tippet ring. And the nice thing about the foam here, rather than the plastic, is that you can stick that hook right into the foam. These are also a little bit smaller, fit nicer in your pocket that way. So changing leaders is a lot easier than carrying 2 fly rods. And changing leaders is a lot easier than changing spools. Why change a whole reel spool and a fly line just to change the leader? And changing leaders makes it a lot easier to be versatile on the water. So change leaders quickly and love your life. Fish hard, friends. So when I show this method to people, I'm losing my balance. Ready, ready? So, and here we go, here we go. Right about here, right about here, right about here. Easy peasy.